So with today's topic, we're going to be talking all about games.
So that's an interesting topic. So games. Now, why did you choose games?
Well, for one thing, just want to say something quick. Is that card games can be pretty fun as like a little bit of a fidget. Like every time I shuffle them with my hands, it counts as a little bit of a fidget as well. I don't bring these cards with me all the time, but when I'm at home, it's kind of nice to put that there as well. I chose games for this week's topic because I feel like education can be the most effective when you put the fun in it.
Very interesting. So we're going to talk about really education, the ability to progress, to learn schools, skill sets, social stories, all through games and play. And I think this really is a very relevant topic because it's just not about, hey, here's my favorite games, but it's here were my favorite games that really helped me to be able to make progress to where I'm at now. Tell us about, kind of what makes a game for you or components or how you think about a game.
What I believe a game is that the game is fun. The game can be challenging. The game can always have this satisfactory result after you complete it. Whether you win or you were close to winning, that kind of stuff too. Whether it's like board games or video games or toys, even any kind of game is somewhat the same in such a way. I always say that video games are just another source of entertainment, such as movies and TVs and toys and all that kind of stuff too. They all kind of combine and relate to each other in that kind of way. So the game is fun. That's what I believe what a game is, and you got to find the fun, and then that's your game. If the game is not fun, then don't play it.
That's an important principle, right? So games have to be fun because if they're drudgery, then you're right. It's really just not a game at all. And so that's an important point. So any game that we would play or game, especially in learning types of games, you want to make that fun. So what's fun for you? How do you define fun in a game?
I define, believe it or not, so this was also going to be one of my other topics too for fun. But I think it's kind of nice to put fun as a topic in this topic, which is games. So how would I define fun? That's a very interesting question. So fun generally means to me anyway is having the joy of doing something that's challenging, that's creative, colorful. Sometimes it doesn't have to be colorful, but it's being creative, using your imagination. Challenging it even. That can be a good sort of stuff. And sometimes, dangerous even. Sometimes a little bit risky as well. Like here's an example. Like going to go-kart tracks and you're going as fast as you can. It can be a little dangerous when you hit those curves and all that kind of stuff too. But I still like to do it because I enjoy the speed.
Sure. And so again, danger within limits, right? Because remember, there's boundaries, right? Boundaries of safety that ultimately you've had the opportunity to learn inside of that, but it still does have that little element of risk. And the other thing you said is the challenge or barriers. But what would be the challenge, right? What would be the fun if everything was just easy for you? If in the game of football, you just simply ran and there were no barriers or obstacles and you just got a touchdown all the time, that really wouldn't be very fun. People wouldn't pay that to watch that game. So too in life, we are shaped by our challenges and our adversity and ultimately kind of playing this game. So that's good. So what were some of the earliest games that you remember, playing specifically, around that helped you with your autism?
Well, let's go with the starters. Let's go with the very beginning in preschool. I was a very sore loser. I can tell you that much. Why was I a sore loser? Because I remember playing this one particular game, which is where you pass the beanbag around. And this game, very simple. Pass the beanbag, and when the music stops, the one holding the beanbag will be the winner. So I kind of stopped playing those kind of games too, because it was so very upsetting. Kindergarten, we didn't really play that much games. Instead, we just play with toys. And, that's a lot different because you can play however you like. That's the main important thing.
You didn't know how to play those games. In your mind, you're like, well, the game is me ending up with the beanbag. And you didn't have the base foundational concepts of sharing. It also was agitating to you, ultimately would create meltdowns. And so you just had to be removed from that situation because it just didn't make sense for you. So until you understand the rules, able to train on those rules, have repetitive trainings on that, then you can start to be introduced back into a situation where game playing is okay. So what we may assume, like, hey, playing ball with someone, well, you've got the ball coming at you, or you've got a beanbag being passed and you don't understand the rules, and all of a sudden you're melting down. Well, we as caregivers also have to really make sure that we're not putting you in a position to fail because we haven't done an adequate job of informing you of the rules, making sure you're okay with the rules, helping you understand the rules of that game. So ultimately you were removed from those situations. What other types of games, like you would play games individually and not in a group? What type of games worked for you?
Well, one very easy game that's really worked out for me is playing catch, with the ball. Why does it work so well? Because for one thing, there's no real competition, a real winner, I guess you can say.
You also had quite a bit of testing and assessment and those kind of things that happened too. How did you view that kind of assessment? Was that also then a game to you, or did somebody say, well, you're being assessed right now? How did that occur to you?
Here being assessed, actually it sounds kind of funny the way you put it. So, it is true. I was doing like one of these little tests that would happen to me, just so that they can get things, understand me, how my head works, that kind of thing, because I have autism. So what they would do is that they would show me so these different little tests, like for example, like a pattern or a drawing or shapes even that you get to move around to see to match the shape, that kind of stuff, match the drawing, even numbers, pictures, all that kind of stuff too. And I didn't really know why I was doing all these things too. All they said was, okay, I want you to do this for me, and take as much time as you like. There's no hurry, which is kind of nice too. But at the same time, I was pretty quick on those tests. I was like, mixing the shapes and fixing the drawings, all that kind of stuff too. See the patterns and all that kind of stuff. I thought this as a game. I thought of these tests as total games, and sometimes I try to go as fast as I can, feeling like I'm the only one that's doing these games and no one else.
Anytime that we as parents or caregivers or teachers or therapists are administering tests, to the extent that we can make them game-like, right? Make them a game, make them fun, we're going to have a much better outcome.
And every time they took me to these little testing sessions, I'm always so excited to do those because they're fun, they're colorful, they're entertaining, and I get to learn some stuff even about myself.
Really, it's the format or the administration of those, making them more game-like. That's a good strategy that will really help them. Now, you had mentioned cards, as a game, kind of as fidgets. Are there any other game-like or game things that you would use as fidgets as well?
Oh, yes. Toy cars.
Toy cars. Oh, yeah. Good.
Toy cars were one of the things I would love to play with, and sometimes I can be seen as games too. Seeing how fast each car goes and all that kind of stuff too. Even spinning the wheels around too with the cars. I feel like they're kind of fidgets like for games. I think they're more generally for toys, but still, that's what I kind of like to use for a fidget as well. The controllers for video games can be fidgets.
Mm-hmm.
Back then I didn't really know that much about video games. All I know is that they look kind of neat to play, even on the outside when it's not the video involved. Used to chew on the cords a bunch of times too because it was so rubbery. Like I mentioned in earlier, is that my mouth counts as fidgets, and I like to chew, so I used to chew on those little cords as well when I was very little.
Chewing on electrical cords and video cords, that's not a good idea.
Good idea.
Yeah, so that took us a little while, as well. So you brought up the subject of video games, and we could probably do one or two entire sessions just on video games. But tell us about video games that were beneficial for you and why they were beneficial.
Yeah, so I mentioned, the controllers, the shape of it, the colors, all that kind of stuff too. It's very nice to look at and feel, even with the control stick and all that kind of stuff. But video games can be quite beneficial to me because, for one thing, the games that I have played and grow up with, they're all, age appropriate, E-rated too.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's very important too because I feel, of course, this is just coming from me. This is my personal opinion. That once you play E-rated games, these age-appropriate titles for a very, very, very long time, you'll get to learn some very neat, interesting stuff, such as imagination, how to,
Mm-hmm.
and being, upbeat and cheery, all that kind of stuff, and kind of have this high energy where sometimes it feels like you get to imitate what's going on around the game, whether it's like racing or running, all that kind of stuff too. And it's not just video games where you do this on a TV screen, but also computer games too, that I feel can be the very, very most helpful for your future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So really some key distinctions there. One, because everything was really about modeling, you were observing the world, trying to figure out how to socially fit in, how to speak, how to find communication. And so video games were a really big part of that because you would see how those characters would interact, the things that they would say, the dialogue that they would have with each other. And to the extent that the rating in this particular case was E, we really were pretty strict on that because we also knew that modeling was a big part of what you were doing. And if all of a sudden you're modeling violent video games and those, that maybe it had behavior that wouldn't have been conducive to being in a school environment or social environments. And it's not so much that you didn't know the difference, but you were just trying to learn what was appropriate and inappropriate. So having other stimulus and other input became very confusing and agitating and all of that for you. So we had to be really controlled in those video games, definitely.
Whether it's like in games or movies or toys, even, like in pictures or anything like that, anything that's shown to me, I try to figure out what if this is all right to do, in a social situation. And so, that's why we were very strict on, playing those E-rated games.
And in other sessions, you've talked about titles, like maybe Putt Putt, where it was a story. You had a goal that you needed to achieve, and you went through and would try to make decisions, good decisions, bad decisions, and ultimately try to, work through to get to a goal. We had talked about in previous sessions, like ear aerobics, where it was more about the pronunciation of specific words. All of those are games. And so games that were around specific social stories or games around specific social kinds of interactions, games that include people's faces or people interacting that you could repeat over and over again. All of those were really positive in video as well.
And I think this will be a nice time to get into that when it comes to computer games, because I feel like those are the most helpful, and we could tackle some stuff what we've been doing.
Yeah, definitely. And another game that you would play too was a bit about it was like a feedback, a biorhythm feedback game.
It measures pretty much your vitals.
Right. Yep.
Comes to like if you're relaxed or if you're agitated, they'll hook you up with three fingers and they'll read you. And with these particular games, it's called Healing Rhythms, I believe. It's basically about these different challenges on how you'll be able to relax, and with the help of the vitals, you get to go with these activities on. Okay, if you're a lot calmer, then you'll get your bow and arrow steady to hit the targets. If you're aggressive, the bow and arrow would go all over the place. So that's how you'll be able to slowly relax. If you're agitated, there's a part where the balls will be juggling up higher and higher, depending on how agitated you are. And if they go lower and lower, that means you're going a lot relaxed.
What about games like sports? Did you find those beneficial? And if so, how did you learn to? Was it mainly individualized kind of games that you did better at versus team games? Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Sports was a little bit tricky at first off, of course. It was tricky because there's competition, there's points involved, there can only be one winner. So it was so we had to kind of work on the rules, general rules, and that kind of stuff too. And they would say that's okay, you'll win next time, or something like that. So sports was very beneficial. I believe that you get to learn some new stuff. You get to learn about teamwork, saying that you couldn't do this without your partner, that kind of stuff. When it comes to sports, and ultimately, I just keep challenging myself to push myself further on these sports, to better myself every time I go to recess or to the gym at high school, that kind of stuff. I just wanted to keep pushing myself to the limits. And sometimes I push myself a little too far and I end up hurting myself.
And so that's that self-regulation, and this actually took you a lot of years to learn. So even with the basic things like just the basic rules of soccer, right? Like this is your goal, this is the opposing team's goal, just learning those basic things. Things like how people play, and whether you kind of had this feeling maybe of people playing easy on you, or maybe you were playing easy on them and not quite knowing like how competitive or how aggressive or how not to. Tell us how you resolve some of those things and how you learned how to actually just play a game.
I didn't really quite know how to play soccer that much. All I knew was, hey, don't touch the ball with your hands. So what I did, I kind of improvised by grabbing the ball with my legs, and then kind of just walking on my hands, or kind of rolling around, that kind of stuff too. It took me kind of a while to kind of in a way blend in with what's going on, but still you can still run faster or kick harder, that kind of stuff. It's okay to do that kind of stuff when it comes to baseball. It's like everyone's kind of different when it comes to strengths and how fast you are, that kind of stuff too. It was a very interesting way of learning on how to play these games too. Too, when it comes to sports, about the stuff of people playing easy on me too, because that kind of makes me a bit upset when people are playing easy on me too, or they're either walking or kind of giving me space, that kind of stuff too. It's like, what is going on? Why are you guys all over the place? They're not trying to take the ball away from me. But for me personally, it's like, no, I don't want you to play easy on me. I want you to play as hard as you could. Steal the ball from me. Share my bones if you have to. Be competitive with me because I want a good challenge and I kind of want a fair game.
And also, I think why you started to gravitate towards more individual types of sports. So sports like tennis, where it was just one other opponent, or golf is an individual sport that you like doing, or archery, or something where you could start competing, or bowling, where it really was more of an independent kind of thing. Those were the sports that you started to gravitate to, it seemed like the most, but also where you could really focus on self-improvement, right? These are the things that I'm going to do to improve my game. So tell us a little bit about, how self-improvement and individual games really started working in your life.
Yeah, so it's those very small challenges as well. And as I grow up and progress, those challenges become much bigger, much harder. And and growing up, being encouraged about challenges. Growing up, I want to accept challenges, and I want to challenge myself. Mm-hmm. And that's where it comes with this evolution of the challenge, where where you are offered the challenge, you want to accept the challenge. You are offered a challenge again during grow up, and at the same time, you want to challenge yourself.
This is a formula for success because it starts with, challenges being put in front of you. It's like we started this whole thing with. Life is this game, right? It's going to have barriers. It's going to have obstacles. It's going to have challenges. And challenges are presented to you. But if you are forced to walk through that, then your entire life is going to be people forcing you to do things that you don't necessarily want to do, right? Versus you accepting the challenge. So let's take that first part, right? The challenges were offered to you and you chose to accept them as a challenge, saying, hey, yeah, I want to do this. Was there a time that you didn't do that? And then how did you get yourself to start accepting challenges that were work? What made them safe for you?
The challenge I did not approve upon is moving from elementary school to intermediate school and to have a new parapro. I did not want to do that. I wanted to stay at fourth grade for a longer time. And they understood what was going on. But at the same time, they say, hey, you can't really quite repeat the fourth grade. You have to do this. And, they walk you through to the fifth grade, to the whole thing too. It's not the matter of they're forcing you, but they're encouraging you and welcoming you to a new part, because that's what a lot of my kids are doing, and you have to follow the crowd. It was a big challenge. It was hard, and it took quite a bit. It took like a month to figure this all out.
So it really was. So one of the keys was encouragement. So just this constant encouragement, constant reinforcement, breaking down what seemed to be a very big issue into really small issues so that you could just deal with them one at a time. Then once you dealt with all the little issues of the large problem, then you could move forward. It was okay.
And they always ask questions too. That's always the most important thing too. Is like you're going to be in a new grade. Are you prepared?
Yeah.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
And I said, no, I'm not ready for this. It's okay to kind of refuse the challenge, as long as you want to figure out why you refuse it. Is it because the game is too hard? Is it too complicated? It's all these kind of stuff too. So these kind of questions kind of rush through my head. The reason why I say no is because I don't really know how to play. I want to figure out what this is and choose if I really want to play or not.
Yeah, so totally makes sense. So you're presented with challenge, you're encouraged. Then at the next step then is you start accepting those challenges. Then you start creating challenges for yourself, meaning that no longer are people saying, hey, do it, but you're actually starting to create those challenges for yourself. How did you start doing that?
It's learning how to accept failure and embarrassment.
That's such a powerful concept, Tyler. I mean, that really is. So learning how to accept failure and embarrassment. So tell us about that.
I will give you one good example. It's when I was playing putt-putt golf with my mom. She got a hole in one, and I just threw a tantrum. because she won the game and got the hole-in-one stuff. It's like this isn't fair. I want to win. You're not supposed to get the hole-in-one and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. It was very rough. I ended up on the floor.
Yeah, it was a meltdown. Yep.
It was embarrassing. Thinking back, it's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I did that. And they can be seen as learning examples on how to make yourself better. And if you lose, you lose. That's all there is to it. Move on, that kind of stuff. And that took me about 2 years to figure out how to accept the loss and how to accept embarrassment. And just to move on with what's going on too, and try your very best not to think about those failures and do something completely different.
Yeah, I think that's, and I mean, whether you have autism or not, dealing with past failures is a huge issue because there's nothing we can do about the past. The past is the past. It's done. It's the choices that we make today that then create and allow us to live into the future. There's nothing we can do about the future either, but the future gets shaped based upon the choices that we make right now. And those base foundational concepts were, are you making good choices or are you making poor choices? When you make good choices, good things happen. When you make poor choices, poor things happen. And other foundational concepts about, expected behavior and unexpected behavior. And then you can continue to build those challenges for yourself saying, I want that different outcome. How did you start to say, I'm going to challenge myself in this area? I'm going to challenge myself in this area to kind of create a game for yourself. How did you start to do that?
I would say on Monday. So Monday, we have this community event where there's a street dance going on. And they got, the country, live bands, and you got, the disc jockey playing all sorts of neat music. A lot of kids go over there too, high school kids, or even college kids as well too, on the younger place. And the challenge is that the kids, I wouldn't say kids, but I would say dancers, they formed a big circle, big, open circle area, right? It's like, dancing in the circle, that kind of stuff too. And a bunch of kids said do that. So what did I do? First off, I remember the many different challenges I've had and the different embarrassments I've done too, because I always say that I'm used to having the feeling of embarrassing myself or having the feeling of failure, that kind of stuff as well, because it takes 24 hours to get off your chest, but or get off your mind, during the moments. But that there's also another side of me saying that if you don't do it, then you'll probably regret it.
So, Tyler, any closing comments or other thoughts on this subject of games?
One of the biggest games, for computers is the Jumpstart series. Now, the Jumpstart series back then was, I think even today is that they would, go from preschool, kindergarten, all the way to sixth grade, and they usually do like either math or reading or letters, even basic stuff, all the way to sixth grade, where you get to solve different problems. They like to have different parts about Jumpstart. Whether it's Reader Rabbit, where you get to learn about reading and forming words. Another thing too is the Humongous Entertainment games. Mm-hmm. What were the games about for Humongous Entertainment? Basically, problem solving, and the cool thing about Humongous Entertainment games is that virtually anything that you click on can be interactive. Another one is the Blaster series. The Blaster series, such as math and reading, basic kind of stuff too, but they all have the specific thing in common. They're all colorful, easy to navigate, and it can be played again and again. You learn stuff every time you do so. Mm-hmm. And Scholastic, Magic School Bus, same thing. It's it's colorful. You've got the colorful characters, all that kind of stuff, and you learn some different stuff, such as inside the earth, or inside the human body, the rainforest, all that kind of stuff too. Aerobics was definitely a lot helpful because it was so simple. You just click on something, you get to learn different stuff, such as patterns on what you hear. That was mostly the case. You get to learn different kinds of patterns with your, by hearing them or even seeing them at the time too, and became a really neat way to kind of get into tact with the balance as well. And two more things, and that was the DK, Dorling Kindersley. I think I pronounced that right, but DK, they worked on a bunch of things, with learning some new things, like even Dave McCauley's The Way Things Work. That was one of the things that was very helpful because I like to know how things work and such too, and so that kind of gave a clear new understanding of how Faucets works, power drills, or DVDs, CDs, all that kind of stuff. All these different stuff on how they work and all that kind of stuff. And finally, one thing that's really was helpful is the Microsoft CDs I used to work on too, like Dangerous Animals. Mm-hmm. I'm really into animals too. Even back then, I was really wanting to learn how animals work, on how what different kinds of animals back then. So that special computer software that we use, get to learn these kind of stuff.
And you literally spent thousands of hours. I mean, you spent thousands of hours. We spent thousands of hours working with you. And like you said, hey, it was hard to determine what actually was going on. I don't know. I didn't know what to do. And so we would help you through that. And then it would just be a matter of you kind of remembered those things. And we had to pick games actually that had quite a few different variables to them, because otherwise you just remember the patterns, right? But those were hugely beneficial. And I really think, provided an amazing foundation that when you started to develop words, around 6 or 7, and then, into forming sentences, that provided all the base. You just needed the mechanics and the enough training on situations and how to put that together socially and in the correct orders, that it just took time to do that. And those were all really good foundational. And it all really was from games.
There's always a battle or a challenge, and it all matters on if you accept that challenge or not.
Very, very cool. Well, Tyler, thank you again, and we'll look forward to your next webinar.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming.